Many of you guys have been asking, how did we start our financial freedom journey? What were some of the challenges you faced along the way? And ultimately, how did you overcome it? Stay tuned. We're going to show you exactly how we did it. Hi, I'm Prentice.
I'm Dion, and
we're the
Motleys from Motley Financial Solutions,
your financial freedom coaches.
Thank you so much for joining us in today's video. And as you can see from the title, we are giving you the details on how we got out of debt. Yes. We're giving you all of
everything,
the tea.
The full scoop. Yeah.
All of the questions that you all have been asking us on Facebook and Instagram will be answered in this video. But before we get into the content, as always, please don't forget to click the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss an upload from us. All right, so this is going to be broken up into 4 parts. We're going to first talk about how we got into debt, what it was, how much it was.
Yes.
And then the second part, we're going to talk about what started our debt-free journey. So what kind of tugged us to want to get out of debt. And do something different. And then we're going to follow that up with the exact steps that we took to get out of debt and how long it took for us to do that. And then lastly, the 4th part is going to be life after becoming debt-free. So we're sure you guys want to know what we've been doing and what we have been up to since we've been debt-free. So Prentice, I'll go ahead and let you start with how we got into debt in the first place.
So to really give you the full scope or realm of how things got started, let me take you back to the year of 2000. So year 2000, Dion and I were both in college. I was a sophomore, she was a freshman. I'll spare the details for another video on how we met and all that, but essentially our journey started when we eventually just got into debt. So being a college student, fresh out of our parents' houses, we felt a sense of liberty, freedom. We could do whatever we wanted to do. And I remember a time where credit card companies would be on campus offering, hey, a Walmart gift card or a gift card to Target if you sign up for this credit card. And, my mind frame was, I need to stay away from those, but I do need a credit card for emergencies. So that was a lie that I fell into. We both did. And so it started there. It started where we made bad decisions early on before we really understood how to manage money. We made really bad decisions. Having those credit cards led to overspending and times where we wanted things, not necessarily needed them. We use a credit card as a crutch. So you fast forward 4 years from there, we're married, we're freshly out of college, we've graduated, and we're already starting our marriage off with over $30,000 in debt.
And not just credit cards. So that was student loans. I think we both had a couple of accounts and collections. Like I had a cell phone that I gotten on credit in addition to the credit card. So it was a combination of student loans, credit cards, cell phones. And I think that was pretty much the main 3 when we first started on our journey to be getting in debt. Not becoming debt free, but getting into debt. Yeah.
So Dion, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So when you had your first credit card, what was going through your mind of why you needed that credit card?
For me, it wasn't necessarily about emergencies as much as it was focusing on establishing credit. I was already 18, and so at that age, you hear, just get a credit card. Or a small loan to establish credit because you need to have credit. So that's the frame of mind that I was thinking when I first got into debt. But as Prentice shared, I used it for emergencies. I used it for buying things for my room, school supplies, books, which aren't necessarily bad things, but it did cause overspending because I also had a job and was working, and I could have been using the cash that I was earning to pay for those things, but instead I used my credit card. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and so we share all that just to say that our journey really began when we just started making bad decisions. So I want to spend some time there just to emphasize that, you know, a credit card is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you know and you use it properly. We choose not to use credit cards right now just because, you know, we pay with everything with cash, and we'll explain a little bit later why that's so important, especially if you're just getting started as far as paying off your debt. So taking it from the moment where we were in debt, we were college students, we graduated, we're now married. It's 2004, 2005. We're starting to pay off credit card bills, credit card debt. I believe that even when you graduated, you had paid off with some of your student loan money, right? Paid off your Discover card, I think, right?
Yeah, so we got married in 2004. And the first year of our marriage, I was able to pay off all of my accounts and collections. So it was a total of 2 credit cards and a cell phone bill. So the only thing that I had been left with at that time were my student loans. And so having the, you know, collection accounts and credit cards eliminated at that point did alleviate some things for us. But we still had student loan debt, which totaled to about $30,000 all together when we got married is what we had in debt. And I think within that same year, or I think it was in 2005 or 2006, you got a settlement.
Yeah,
check.
I did get a settlement check, which helped a lot. Wasn't a lot to cover everything, but it provided transportation that was a little bit more reliable. But even beside that, we still had to hustle and figure out a plan to start attacking this debt and not allowing those accounts to build in collections. I remember a time where I went through my credit report and just understanding what I had out there, the balances, and we both went through an exercise where we recorded exactly how much we had in debt, and we started working with collection agencies, calling them and negotiating, say, hey, I can pay this amount, you know, if we can clear this off now. And they were willing to work with us, and that ends up saving us a lot of money because we were able to, you know, come up with an agreement. Sometimes we were able to pay it off right then and there, just because of what we had saved up and what I received back from my settlement. But additionally, having a reoccurring payment schedule was more of a guarantee to the collection agencies, so they were willing to work with us on that. And that still stands true for today. So a lot of the collection agencies out there, you know, they just really want their money, and so if you know, some won't budge or won't negotiate, but 9 times out of 10, most collection agencies will negotiate with you if you're serious and they see that you're working towards paying off that debt. Yeah,
and we can talk about that in another video in more detail. If you all are dealing with collection agencies and you want some guidance on how to handle them, just leave a comment down below letting us know that you want to hear more information about that, and we'll share that with you. Something that you reminded me of was like, you know, once he got his settlement check, he also paid off his accounts that were in collections and credit cards. So within the first year and a half of our marriage, we literally only had student loan debts. And I think at that point we had 2 car loans. By then, because we graduated from college, we had to get new cars, right?
Exactly.
All right.
We both needed new cars.
We really did. We really did need a new car, because the car that we had when we got married and after graduation,
that was a hoopty. Like, for real. Like, that was
started from the bottom. Now we get
exactly. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but just know that this was a car that the muffler was just falling off, making a loud noise. People would know a mile away when we're coming.
Like, okay, wait.
Almost so much that our pastor asked or offered to pay to get the car fixed because it was that loud.
He did. He said, listen. Just find out how much it costs to get your muffler fixed, and I will pay for it, because I can't take the noise.
Yeah.
I can't take the noise. But I mean, that's funny, but really, that right there is a humbling moment, because only one door opened, one window rolled down, and the muffler had a hole in it. and we were using this card to get back and forth to work. Like I would literally have to get up, take Princess to work, come back, and then go to my job because I worked closer to home. And so you would think like, oh, well, why didn't he just take the car? But he didn't want me walking or like catching public transportation. So you're such a good husband. So I would take him to work, and then I would go to work and then pick him back up. And that we lived off of one car for about a year.
Yeah.
And so in 2005, he had gotten a newer car.
Yes.
And then in 2006, I had gotten a new car. So at that point, you know, first year and a half, 2 years of our marriage, we only had student loans and we only had car loans, and that was it. We didn't have any credit cards at that point because all of the ones that were in collections, again, were already paid off at that point. So continuing on with our debt journey, after working for, I would say, about 3 or 4 years post graduation, I started a new job at a financial institution. And at that time, we were like, okay, well, you know, we do need to build credit. We had a house at that point. We had purchased our first home in 2006.
So let me stop you right there.
Okay.
You just said we do need to build credit. So let me just dispel.
That's what we were thinking.
Yeah, let me just dispel a myth real quick, and we'll go into a lot more detail, maybe on another video, because we could spend a whole segment talking about this. But building credit, okay. So I'll be real brief here. Building credit is only necessary when you plan to borrow. But God never called us to be borrowers. He called us to be lenders.
Amen.
And that is a trap that a lot of Americans, especially young Americans, fall into. That you need a credit card. That a credit card is a must in order for survival. It is not.
Yeah.
Before credit cards, people use what? Cash. If you didn't have it, you didn't buy it. So that is one of the core principles we live by, and we encourage everyone that we speak to, or at least educate them, because we're not trying to tell people not to use credit cards, because some people enjoy using them and they use them responsibly. But I just want to put that out there real quick, that like that's how we started. That's how we fell into the trap.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And even while I'll backtrack a little bit, because we purchased our first home in 2006, and I believe even during that process, we had applied for a credit card with the lender, because they were saying, oh, you don't have enough credit history out there, or enough good credit history out there. And luckily, because we hadn't defaulted on our student loans at that time, that was literally like the only good credit that we have. And I'm using quotation marks a lot because good credit at this point really doesn't make a difference. And so, as Princess was saying, we were so focused on that mindset of, in order for me to live, I need to borrow. I need to have a high credit score in order for me to get a home, in order for me to get a car, etc. And that was just our frame of mind. However, we did have an opportunity after working and, after paying off those collections, we did have an opportunity to just focus on using cash, but that just wasn't a part of our journey. It wasn't a part of our way of thinking. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. By the end of, I would say, 2008, after purchasing our home, we still had cars. We started, kind of having the conversation around whether or not we would use credit cards, but really didn't get into it. But again, I started a new job. And so this is like in 2009. We were like, okay, we've been doing pretty good. We have the house. We haven't defaulted on anything. Let's go ahead and continue on with building our credit. And so each of us had gotten one credit card, and we were both authorized users. So it was basically like,
y'all. She tricked me. She was a baker.
Really?
It's just funny. I mean,
really?
People know it, but
I was Eve. I tricked him. I was like, honey, we can get this really great deal. I work for the institution. There's some little perks and things that we could take advantage of. So we had the conversation. So me and Adam did it together. Okay?
We did. I took that apple, and I've been regretting it ever since. But
yeah. But it was true. It was a decision that we made together, and so we started using credit cards again. Now, throughout this entire time, we didn't really change our habits and our relationship with money at that point. those credit cards and, you know, having the mortgage, etc., did allow for us to build our credit score, but we weren't building wealth. And so, you know, we were using our credit cards for points. We were using them for cash rewards. We were using them for merchandise and, you know, all of these perks and things. And in our minds, we're thinking,
oh, this is
we're
great.
doing a great thing. We're building our credit. We have a home. We're now investing in real estate. But we were saving a little bit, but not a whole lot. Now, keep this in mind. During this time, we were also using payday loans.
Yep. Yeah. So we use our money for the things that we want. And when it came time to pay bills or when we had unexpected expenses, and because we didn't save, we had to use payday loans. And if you are any at least bit familiar with payday loans and how they work, they charge in excess of 50% interest on those loans. Yeah. So,
and they're short-term loans.
And they're short-term loans.
2 weeks.
So let's just put this in perspective. You borrow $200, 50% on $200. How much is that?
That's another extra $100.
That's an extra $100. So you're paying $300 in a matter of from your next the next time you get paid. So usually 2 weeks. Yeah. That's ridiculous. You know,
it is. But we were thinking at the time that we could manage it because he had a good job, I had a good job, and it was literally like, you know, just that extra cushion because we'd pay our tithes. Oh, and let me talk about that for just a second.
Yeah.
Throughout this entire journey, we have been tithers. We have been sowing into the kingdom of God off of our gross income. Okay, and we were still behind because of what we were doing with the 90%. The mismanagement of the 90% is what caused us to start using payday loans. And, you know, and even with the credit cards, I think we even though we had the credit cards, we were still kind of like, no, I don't want to use them. I don't want to pay that interest. I'd rather pay the payday loan interest, which
just didn't.
I don't know why. None of it ever made sense. But again, looking back on it in hindsight, we literally had tunnel vision in thinking that those were our only options. So when we talk about like transitioning from how much debt, you know, we had into what started our debt-free journey. So I would say altogether our total debt between mortgage, credit cards, student loans, car loans was upwards of $250,000.
Yeah, actually a little bit more. More like 275 if you really take the total amount of debt we had in our mortgage. Yeah, it's more like 275.
Yeah. And so what started the journey, like we were kind of on and off. Like during this time of us using payday loans, we did have a period where we were just like, we can't continue to do this. Like we have to suffer through whatever process we're going through. We cannot continue to keep borrowing money, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul and all this other stuff. So we literally one day just decided to stop using payday loans. And that was the hardest 2 weeks that we ever had to endure. And I'm being dramatic when I said that because we survived it. But it was hard mentally. It was hard emotionally to deal with it. And a lot of what you experience on a journey to change or do better in anything, it's more mental and emotional than it is actually physically, you know, carrying it out. Right. It's more harder to go through that mental and emotional process. And so after we decided that we weren't using payday loans again, we did try to put ourselves on a budget. And the reason why I said try is because we would start and stop. The increase of income would kind of give us a little cushion because we're like, oh, we got a little bit extra, we can do this, and we do it, but then we'd fall back into our old habits. So what happened? We started upgrading vehicles. We started making upgrades on the house. We started, going on different vacations and traveling and buying, luxury items and all these different things. And so it was never like, take a chunk of it and put it away. I remember around 2011, 2012, we had attended the church that we're actually currently members of now. We attended the church, and it was the first sermon that we ever heard. The pastor was talking about money management, and he was talking about the 70-30 rule, where 70% of your income you live off of, 10% you give to the church, the other 10% you either put towards saving or paying off debt, and then the last 10% you either put towards investing or your retirement. And we even tried living off of that, but we just weren't mature enough in our walk to continue to carry that out.
Right, exactly. And I remember a time where we were saving, and we had started saving so much that we had more money than saved that we ever had at any given time. And what ended up happening was, oh, you know what? We have money in the bank. Let's go on this vacation. Let's go do this. Oh, you've been working hard. Go ahead and buy that purse, baby. Or Prentice, go ahead and get you those shoes. I remember, and I could talk about this and laugh at it now, but I remember I had a pair of dress shoes that were talking. I was willing to go through that, because I knew we didn't have the money, and I had always been the saver or the frugal one, whereas Dion was more of the spender. But she's more of the personality where she is very, what do you call it? What's the other word I'm looking for? The spender.
I'm very organized. Detailed.
Yeah. So that word. So I remember a time where we really didn't have the money, but we convinced each other that we worked too hard to go around looking busted, and to go without having whatever it is that we needed at the time.
That was our first year of marriage.
Yeah, and
that was our first year of marriage.
And even though that is true, when you're in debt and when you are not already living below your means and you're trying to get out of debt, it needs to be in a place where, okay, cover your necessities, cover the things that you have to get done in order to live. You have to have a place to lay your head. You have to have food every day. You have to have transportation so you can go to work, so that you can get a paycheck, so that you can pay your bills. Right? So you got to cover those necessities. But you know what? There's things that we could have done. Instead of buying brand new shoes, I could have went to the Goodwill. I could have done a whole different things to reduce the amount of money that was going out, so that we can focus it on really getting out of debt. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that there. Yeah.
But I'm glad you mentioned it and you brought that up, because a lot of the times people think that while we were on our debt-free journey that we were depriving ourselves. Yeah. That we did stop some things. We didn't do any excessive shopping because we had been down that journey, and that's what got us into debt. And to also piggyback off of what you were saying, when he's mentioning, okay, we could have gone to Goodwill. This is while we were starting our journey, and as we were younger and coming up, we could have made different decisions instead of feeling like we had to have the newer thing or we had to have the best thing, because we were in a state of survival and depravity. We felt deprived. We felt like, man, I'm working hard. I've got these degrees. I should be able to do X, Y, and Z. I should be able to buy these new shoes. I should be able to buy this purse. I should be able to go on this trip. And the thing is, when we talked about we couldn't afford it and we weren't able to do it, we didn't have the access to do it. We didn't have the ability to do it right then and there at the drop of a dime. But we could have managed our money better, to save for it, to pay cash for it, to be better stewards over our credit cards, be better stewards over our money. So again, we're not saying no, don't ever use credit cards. All of it comes back down to your behavior and your money management, and how you're actively living this out. So I'm glad. I'm really glad that you brought that up. But it also leads into our journey of, okay, what was triggering this debt-free journey? What sparked us being able to say, you know what, we're done with this. This is it. This is the last time.
And I remember feeling wow, I'm never gonna pay off this debt. I'm never, and it was from a negative, dark place. I remember feeling wow, I'm gonna die with my student debt.
We said that all the time.
I always say, you know what, as long as I'm not in collection, or as long as I'm not having people coming for me, I'm just gonna live. I'm just, I can't be rich. I wasn't born into a rich family, and it's not possible. So I had all these things that I spoke against what I know now is possible, but those were lies. And quite frankly, it wasn't until I said, you know what, God is able.
Yeah.
God is able to keep us. Understanding His design or His intent for us was to never be in bondage. It was to never to be enslaved to financial systems that have been put in place to work against us, right? And so because of the lack of knowledge that I had or the pursuit thereof, we fell into those traps. And I remember saying, okay, you know what, I'm good at spreadsheets. Let's get together and figure out, okay, hey, here's the money we make. Here's how much extra we could afford to pay down some of this debt. What does that look like? So we started planning, we started making goals, and we literally sat down and wrote out all of our debt and the balances, and we planned it out. Our initial plan had us paying off debt, 5 to 6 years?
Not the very first one.
What was it?
The initial one was more upwards of 10.
Oh, okay, yeah.
10 to 12 years. Because that one included us still keeping the house. And so while we were making, not we, because he made the spreadsheet.
That's right, because I remember thinking 2020. I remember we had it built out to 2020, and it was when we bought the house.
This was back in
2009, 2000. We bought the house in 2006, but we didn't start planning this until about 2009.
I would say it was a little bit later than that, because back in 2012, 2013 is when we started cutting back on our expenses. So we started cutting out cable. We started, being conscious of how much we were spending on electricity, how much we were spending on food. We'd started a version of the cash envelope system just by a conversation that we had with a church member. And so we were trying different things, along the way, just trying to figure out what worked for us. And I also too, I got to touch on this because this is a real big one. We were your tax refund ballers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We were the tax refund ballers.
Oh.
In addition to pay increases, when we got those tax bonuses, when we went crazy. But that's when we would pay off all of the credit card charges that we had. We would still pay on it month to month, but if we had a balance, on our credit card at the time that we got our tax refund check back, we would pay that off. We would put some money in savings. We'd take a vacation or, whatever we were doing with the money, but the amount of money that we were spending versus what we were saving still kind of kept us in that rat race. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on, when Prentice was talking about him creating this spreadsheet, we even included that in our spreadsheet, what we would expect to get back around refund time. And so that was included in this journey. So we started that probably in around 2012, 2013 is when we had this spreadsheet, and it was over the course of 10 to 12 years, because at the time we were going to stay in the house. So we started to cut back on our expenses and make a few upgrades into the house. We had a random conversation one day. We were driving in the car, and I don't remember who, but it was kind of just are you attached to the house? What do you think about selling the house? We've already cut back cable. We're already, making a few upgrades. Prior to that, we'd already tried to sell the house, but we were belly up. We couldn't get out of it. And so we ended up staying, and we had fixed the garage door twice. We had repatched the roof twice.
A new front door in.
We put in new front doors, new light fixtures, had done pulled up all of the carpet, redone the floor, hardware. Okay, sorry about that. The camera cut out really quick, but basically we had a brand new house by the time we got done with all of the renovations. And having the conversation about whether or not we were attached to the home actually led to us deciding to sell it. So once we decided to sell the home, you can kind of say that started this major change on our financial freedom journey, because once we sold the home, and this was back in 2015, we sold the home, we downsized to a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, which was a major change. The house was 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, full, finished downstairs area, two car,
Yep.
extended garage, beautiful backyard, deck, a first starter home. And we weren't attached to it. It was not our forever home. And so a lot of people ask whether or not they should sell their home in order to start their debt-free journey. That is such a personal experience.
Yeah.
I would not say yes right away. In my opinion, it's a conversation that really needs to be had in depth and in detail before you decide to do that.
For us, it was we weren't gaining anything by keeping it, and in order to really gain it, we'd have to stay in it longer, or refinance again with a less than a 15-year mortgage. We weren't willing to do that, so we said, okay, you know what? Let's cut our losses, any losses that we would have. But we actually broke even.
Actually, we got a little bit of money back.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I say we broke even because, after paying, I think we ended up paying some, just moving costs and different things that we needed. It's like, we kind of broke even.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Dion said, it really just depends on what your situation is. I wouldn't urge anyone just to do it just because we did it.
Yeah.
But certainly, if you do the numbers, do the math, and that works out in your favor to do that, then by all means, it was a huge jump for us. So remember, I told you earlier on in the video that we had over approximately $270,000 in debt when we sold our house. $275. We sold our house, and obviously we were still paying on debt by that time. But when we sold our house, we had
it brought us down to like a little over 80,000.
80,000, yeah,
about 83,000, and some change.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I also wanted to mention too, Prentice mentioned earlier about a 5-year plan. This is when the 5-year plan started.
Yeah.
So after we sold the home and we downsized, we redid a budgeting plan to try to pay off cars and student loans and the credit cards that we had, because that was the last 3 debts that we were left with. And so it went from a 10 to 12-year plan down to a 5-year plan, and we were going to work the 5-year plan.
Yep.
But y'all know, when you downsize, if you've ever downsized before, your cost is lower. The electricity was lower. The water was lower.
More
Gas
money.
The commute to work was less. Actually, we moved to a place that was about shaved off 10-15 minutes of driving time for you, which doesn't seem like a lot, but in the type of traffic that we drive, in, it was clutch. And so, like Prentice said, more money.
Yeah, more money. Like,
so,
and you can just about guess what we did with it. It wasn't saving. Well, we did a little bit. But we spent it.
Yeah.
We went on shopping sprees, and we did the thing that you typically shouldn't do or you hear of. The stereotypical type. Yeah, that was us.
Got into a car accident. Had to get another car.
And guess what I did? I bought a brand spanking new car.
Oh no, you did that when we still had the house.
Was that? Yeah, that was.
Yeah, you bought a new car.
So yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah,
I bought a brand new car.
Loans. That was 2011. You got into a car accident in 2011, and we had purchased in 2012.
Yeah.
Brand
new $30,000. I don't care if saying amount. $30,000 car. Stupid. Very stupid decision.
Okay, that was a bit harsh.
I don't care. It needs to be harsh because that was very dumb.
Okay.
Very dumb. Because I could have went and bought a used vehicle for $10,000. Really nice car to get me around to service purpose to get me back and forth to work. Well, yeah, having that $30,000 loan. Guess what? That further delayed paying off us getting out of debt. So,
and that was in 2011 before we even sold the home.
Yeah.
I think that kind of also started us wanting to cut back expenses cutting back on expenses while we were still in the house.
Because that was I was paying $425 a month for the car note. So imagine, mind you,
and that was even with my discount.
Yeah, that's with her discount for working at the bank.
Low. Yeah.
So mind you, we're making great strides, paying off credit card debt.
Mm-hmm.
We started seeing a little, even before we sold the house, we started seeing, that we had more expendable income. We refinanced.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing that we did too.
Which is another reason why we wanted to sell the house after refinancing it 2 times.
Exactly. So we had more money in, and guess what we did? We had a life event. I should say, it's a life event. Had a car accident and made a dumb decision. I call it what it is.
Yeah.
But it
wasn't the smartest.
It wasn't the smartest, and so that's $425 a month just gone every month committed, right? So,
in addition to that, he had gotten into another car accident. Okay. And the only reason I'm smiling when I say this, the only reason I smile when I say it is because he unfortunately totaled his car, which caused us to get the car. Actually,
I totaled my car.
A total of 2 cars.
2 cars. My car.
Right. His car once, and then my car another time. And so that actually led to me getting a new car. We did buy used. At that point, we didn't buy brand new, but we only went a year.
It was a year old.
It was like only a year old. And so this was in 2016 when this happened. So we downsized and sold the home in 2015. 2016, we're living our best life.
Exactly.
He gets into another car accident, totals my vehicle, and so in 2016 we bought a used but newer vehicle for us. So still the same, still had credit cards, still student loans, still car loans.
2 car notes.
But we still had a car note at that point because it was the it was the Mazda.
Did we have a car? I thought we paid that off. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we didn't pay that one off. So anyway, in 2017, we'll kind of fast forward here a little bit. We were kind of like, okay, you've been downsized for like a year now.
What are you doing?
A little over a year now. Why have you not paid anything down? Why have you not made any progress on your 5-year plan? So we're having this conscious, conversation about what's going on, what happened, how do we get off our goals, how do we get off track. And it was just that we had gotten comfortable. We were enjoying not having to pay for the grass to get cut. We were enjoying not having to pay so much for electricity and, water bills and, just even rent. We slashed our mortgage nearly, by 30% by downsizing, would you say?
Yeah.
About 30%. And so we were enjoying, having that money. It felt like we had a little bit more wiggle room to go. And so in 2016, we were making vision boards for 2017 because we were just like, okay, something has to change.
You got to do something different.
And while we were making our vision boards, both of us had put something about finances on it. And so collectively as a couple, we were just like, okay, we really need to hone in on this and pay attention to this because this is something that we're on one accord with. We're in agreement with it. And so we'd already decided we're going to do it together. Whatever we decide to do, we're going to be in this together. Yep. So our mindset was to tighten up on that 5-year plan and start to put things in motion. Well, we're blessed to be a part of a church that is financially conscious about saving and stewardship. And it was January 2017. We were sitting in church, and an ad for community groups comes on, and one of them was for Financial Peace University. Now, we had no idea who Dave Ramsey was. We had no idea what Financial Peace University was. We were just like, we need financial peace. Yeah. And that's it.
That we're doing it.
We're doing it.
There was no other debate.
Yeah. There was no conversation. It was like, you're going to make a beeline for the lobby. You're not going to stop and talk to anyone. You're going to go sign up for that class. Right. And he was primarily saying that to me because I'm the social talker after church. But anyway, that's okay. So we signed up for it. And right away, we're super excited, on fire for it. So before the class even started, we began implementing some of the steps. So I had done some research online, primarily watching old YouTube videos.
So let me just say, so she was that type of kid in school where you know that you got 2 weeks before classes start. Well, she's gonna read 4 chapters ahead. So
And there's nothing wrong
There's
with
nothing wrong with it.
Amen.
But hey, to that esteem, we were able to already start paying off debt before we took FPU.
Yeah.
So sorry, I just had to
No.
mention that.
No. I'm not shy or ashamed or scared. But So one of the reasons we did it is because we didn't want to lose the momentum of excitement that we had with starting it. And there were some life-changing situations that happened before we started the class. We'd already cut up our credit cards because we were like, no more. Like we're breaking the chains. We're not even getting ready to do this. And I mean, it's really crazy to think about, but it's been over 2 years since we have used a credit card. And that's just crazy to say, because keeping in mind, we were so focused previously on building credit and having credit cards as cushion, as to live off of, and now today it's been 2 years that we've used since we haven't used a credit card. And so anyway, Financial Peace University is one of the main things that we had done to get out of debt. We attended the 9-week course and started to follow things before, but of course, as we were going on, within 9 weeks, because we had tightened up on some things, and we're going to get into the specifics of what those are now. So, number one, you learn about building an emergency starter savings of $1,000. Well, we were fortunate enough where we did not have to build up to $1,000. We had to cut back.
That was a hard
and bring the account down to $1,000.
Yeah.
Now, I know some of you may have gotten ready to click off the video. Don't click off the video. Stay with us. Come on. Just stay with us.
Please.
We're not telling everybody to do this. This is what we decided to do. So we're giving you the tea and the specifics on what we did. So that was a hard conversation.
It was.
Because by that time, we had gotten a refund check. We, had a little bit of money left over after moving expenses. Well, actually, no, we spent that money. What am I talking about? Yeah. We started to save again. So we had a little bit of money in the bank. And Prentice had gotten a bonus.
Yeah.
Of upwards of what? About, the bonus was about $20,000, and after tax it ended up being somewhere around $12,000. Yeah. So we were sitting on probably about
a good 18
to almost $20,000 in cash.
Yeah,
that was the most money that we'd ever had.
The gut-wrenching feel was that, wow, if I didn't have debt, this money would be towards saving,
investments,
or investments, or whatever. I could do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But knowing what we knew, we had to make the decision to say, you know what, we need to move with intensity, and we need to go ahead and attack this debt. So it was hard. It was really hard, and this wasn't the only thing that we did. But dropping our savings balance down from nearly 20,000 to 1,000, just so we can pay off the debt and have something in our savings. That was a really hard decision. It took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of commitment on both of our parts, and really saying, okay, this is the point of no return. We do this. We sticking this out. We're gonna see it to the end. So
so I just kind of want to elaborate on that a little bit in detail. So the reason we decided to do that again is because we were following Dave Ramsey's program, which is the first step, build an emergency savings. Second step, pay off your debt. And so by the time we finished the class in 9 weeks, we had paid off over, $20,000 worth of debt. So before we finished the class, we'd paid off all of the credit cards that we'd cut up. And then we'd also paid off one vehicle, which was my vehicle, and about 2 or 3 student loans. Yeah. Okay. That was huge. Now, had we not been paying those things off and understanding what we were going to get back in return, meaning building our dynamite in order to pay off debt, because our 5-year plan literally went to a 2.
It was a 3-year. From a 5 to a 3.
Was it 3? I thought it was like 2.
It was 3. It was like okay. 2 years and 11
and
months.
Some change. Okay.
Yeah.
So our 5-year plan went, from 5 years to almost 3 years. So because we were wanting to keep the momentum up with that, and also stay engaged with what we were doing in this program, because we paid, to take the program. We were like, we're not wasting any more money. So that is what kept us going. And then also the conviction that we were not living the way that we were supposed to be living with the amount of money that we had been making and bringing in over the years, and even currently.
We weren't stewards.
Yeah, we weren't being good stewards. So. And still keeping in mind, we were still paying tithes.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep mentioning we were still giving back to God, which I believe gave us the grace to cover us while we were acting foolishly with what we have been entrusted with. So Financial Peace University was it's what cultivated us into, this debt-free journey for real, and catapulted us into a further stride along our journey. So once we started paying off debt, we just continue on with that. And if you haven't watched our previous video, we will link it above. We talked about the 3 different methods that you can use to pay off your debt. And the method that we used was called the snowballanche, which is a hybrid of the snowball and avalanche method. So what we decided to do was pay off the largest 3 debts that had the highest minimum payments on them, which included his car note, which was $425, my car note, which was about $220, and then I think from there it was just like whatever
the highest debt. Or I think it was a student loan, whatever, one of the student loans.
There was like a student loan or a credit card account that we have been paying on. And so what we had done was still organize our debt smallest to largest, but identify those 3 minimum payments that were the highest, pay those off first with his bonus and then any additional money that we had, and then we just used that monthly amount to trickle on down. So we initially started, when we really started paying things off, it went from about $400 to upwards of about $4,600, between $4,400 and $4,600 a month that we were using to apply towards our debt. So after we organized everything in order, we just kept chucking away at it.
Keep going.
And just kept going. Every refund check, every bonus, every income check that we had that had extra money in it. He worked a lot of overtime, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so, basically I had the opportunity, actually being very fortunate to work overtime. I worked overtime Saturday and a Sunday, at least 2 weekends out of the month, sometimes more, to get additional income to pay down debt. So in the past I had done this, but it had just gone to whatever, spending or waste. Right. So that was a really good tool that we use. And so I would definitely encourage anyone that's on this journey as well to do the same, because you don't have to do it forever. It's just temporary. So it's a little sweat equity. You have to give up or sacrifice a lot of the time that you could spend doing something else, but realizing that it's important to get that paid off right away. That was our intent behind our intention behind the strategy we used. Yeah.
So just it was a total of about $83,000, $83,420 in 2 cents.
Right, the
or
cents.
3 cents. 2 or 3 cents. We'll put the amount down. So it was over $83,000 that we paid off, and it took us 19 months to do that after we'd gotten serious and intentional about paying off our debt. So what did we do? We used all of our sources of income, bonuses, refund checks, overtime payments.
Everything.
We cut back on our expenses. So I started doing my hair. Prentice started cutting his hair. I started doing my own nails. We ate at home a lot. We cut out all of the excess spending on food. We cut out the excess spending on entertainment. We cut back on our travel. Like, we took one trip for our anniversary, like at the end of 2017. But outside of that, we hadn't done any travel. And that was really just a small anniversary trip because we were like, we're not going to get any more vacations. So we're going to wrap up here. And we're going to continue on with our story in the next video, and we'll talk more about tips and tricks that we have, as well as what life is like after that. So if you haven't already, please go ahead, click that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss an upload. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave those down for us below. If there's anything that you want us to expound on, leave it down below, and we will see you all in the next video.
See you guys.
Bye.